This is LSAT Prep Test 135, Section 3, Passage 4. This is a science passage about restoring plant diversity on overfarmed European land. It's a low difficulty passage, but there's one spot where students tend to get lazy and that costs points. This is a problem, then experiment passage. Here's the problem, here's what we tried, here's what we found. The structure is clean. Your job is to keep those distinctions separate. The most important paragraph is paragraph 4. That is where the findings land and where the author tips their hand about what the real solution is. Everything before it is just building toward that moment. Now, paragraph 1 is the problem setup. Europe overproduced crops for years. Now they're pulling hundreds of thousands of acres out of production. But you can't just stop farming and expect nature to bounce back because the soil's trashed. The nutrients are gone. It's been loaded up with fertilizer. And when you leave it alone, thistles and weeds move in first and choke out everything else. So doing nothing doesn't work. The fastest fix, which is stripping the topsoil, is way too expensive at this scale. Nature will heal itself gradually, but that's going to take a while, of course. That is the gap the whole study's trying to close. How do you speed up what nature does slowly? You want to read paragraph 1 carefully. It's background, but every detail sets up why the experiment matters. Now, paragraph 2 is pure method. A former cornfield in the Netherlands, cleared, divided into 20 plots. Some replanted with corn or left bare as controls. The rest split into 2 groups. One got a mix of native grasses and herbs. The other got the same mix, plus clover and toadflax. The plant names don't matter, of course. What matters is they tested different seed mixtures against each other and against doing nothing. You want to move through this quickly. It's set up for the results. Paragraph 3 is where the results start, and it does 2 different things. And you've got to catch the split here. The first half reports what happened with the seeds. After 3 years, the seeded plots pushed out the thistles. Even the plots with fewer seed varieties lost their thistles. But the control plots, thistles everywhere. So the seeds clearly worked. That is the first finding. Then the paragraph pivots. Right around on some of the plots, the study introduces a completely different variable. They took soil from nearby land that had been out of production for 20 years and scattered it on some plots to introduce nematodes, fungi, and microorganisms that healthy soil has and farmed soil does not have. That is the second arm of the experiment. If you skim past it, you're going to miss what the passage is actually about. Now, paragraph 4 is the payoff. The enriched plots, the ones that got the old soil, did better than the unenriched ones. But here is the catch. They still didn't do as well as plants growing naturally on that nearby land. And so the soil transfer helped, but it wasn't enough to fully close the gap. Because farmed soil isn't just missing good organisms, it's overrun with bad ones, like aggressive disease organisms that crowd out the helpful stuff. The author specifically mentions fungi that attach to plant roots and protect them from disease. Farmed land has been stripped of them. So the preliminary conclusion is that you can't just fix what's above the ground. You've got to fix what's below it. Underground diversity drives above ground diversity. And the proposed next step is to systematically sow beneficial microorganisms into the soil alongside the seed. That 2-part approach, seeds plus soil biology, is the whole point of the passage. Now, the key move is the shift from planting to soil. The passage opens like it's about which seeds to use. By the end, it's about what's living in the dirt. So if you walk away thinking this was just about seed mixtures beating thistles, you've got half the passage. The second half is where the hardest questions are going to come from. Now, in terms of tone, the author is cautiously optimistic. They say preliminary results and now believe in the last paragraph, and those are doing real work. We're telling us the researchers think this combined approach can work, but they have not yet proven it. The trap is picking answers that overstate the conclusion. Nothing in this passage says the problem is solved. It says they found a promising direction. If a choice treats these early findings as an established fact, that's going to be wrong. Now, one more thing you want to watch for. The passage describes 2 findings that look like they could be competing but actually build on each other. Seeds alone beat doing nothing. Seeds plus soil biology beat seeds alone. Some questions are going to try to get you to treat these as separate strategies, but they're not. They are the layers, and the author wants both. Before you go to the questions, you want to check yourself on 3 things. First, why didn't the enriched plots match the naturally restored land? Second, what specific role do fungi play, and why does their absence matter? And third, what is the difference between the control plots and the unenriched seed plots, and why does the passage need both?